in the NFL. We've got Dan saying that Deion doesn't trust his son to go to certain places. And
he's going to control where his son goes, 100%.
So if Paul is saying that Deion is going to be in the NFL, and you're saying that he wants to control his son, well, what better combination would there be than Deion getting to coach with his son in the same place? Because you can now take this and apply it to any team that has a top pick in the draft, that has a need for a quarterback and a coaching question. Any team, go through the list. And start saying to yourself, would this team hire Deion Sanders to match with Sheduer Sanders as his head coach?
So, with rumors, speculation, whatever, all the mess that you want to say. So, it didn't dawn on me of this take, but due to basically the Cowboys being trash, came up the whole thing about Deion Sanders being the coach there and stuff. Which then, due to Sheffer, the bomb guy himself, is could there be a Deion Sanders, Sheduer Sanders combination? And it never really even popped in my head that is even on the table of the fact that the coach, quarterback, son, dad combination could be a package. You know, I was like, just because we're in a space where that never happened or had a chance to be a possibility, to be honest. You know, yeah, in high school, yeah. In college, maybe, you know, depending on the lower levels and stuff like that, to an extent that even sometimes, you know, they get their son on, but most time their son is not ever at a level high enough for that to be a possibility also with the coach. But he's on the team or something like that. He might still contribute or whatever. But we're in a rare spot where Sheduer Sanders more than likely will be the number one quarterback. Maybe not the number one pick, but the number one quarterback. Deion Sanders, with his flip of how he did Colorado, is a hot name, and we've also seen rampant from Dan Campbell to D'Amico Ryans and stuff like that, of players who are doing a really successful job coaching and stuff like that, to where I was like, that it might be just the next wave of how they do coaches, you know, because I was like, not too long ago, it was like Sean McVay or whatever, Kyle Shanahan people. Then it was just young ass coaches. Now I was like, it might just be like former players who end up being coaches. So that wouldn't be nothing. I was like, that could be the new way to where that's not nothing also shocking. But also in this is that Coach Prime is already in a spot where he basically sort of already letting people know that I'm going to make sure that my son go to the right spot. We ain't just going to be going anywhere just to be drafted. You know, some a la Eli Manning type thing, John Elway type of stuff. It's already been done. While we'll call the hysteria over because it's Deion and them, it ain't nothing new underneath the sun. But the idea of who better to find out basically how his son is going to be coached and be done is his dad, who coached him, and making sure, in that same sense, how he gets coached and how he gets done. Would the NFL teams do this? And I really think they would, to be honest. Now I will say, will this happen? I don't think it will happen, and not because I don't think Deion is like a good coach or nothing like that. I ain't really been able to pay attention in that regard, but I do think that he does fit as far, especially with pros, and the fact that him being a coach, head coach, I'm like, your whole job is to deal with everybody else and also put people in place that are really good at those specific areas of their job and things like that, to where I was like, I think he could be successful in that. The reason I don't think that it could happen is really, to be honest, this is his first year getting Colorado back to, like, you know, where he's flipped the script to having them, you know, possibly, you know, close to being in the playoff bid and all that other stuff. That I would think that, I don't know, even though I think he'll give it at least another season. That's why, even though he doesn't have his son, but at the same time, you losing your son, while not just saying you losing your son, because I was like, his other son also plays too, and you also lose a Travis Hunter, one of your top players on both sides of the ball. It's like now you got to start over again and try to get the best quarterback. Now, it might not be that bad or that hard considering NIL and all those other things. But I do think that he'll probably give it another season or so. We'll see how it goes. But say that he does. Say that there'll be teams interested in stuff like that. To be honest, the combination of teams that need a head coach and quarterback is really up there. Like nearly every single team is in that spot. Granted, I was like, look, I'm gonna just go through the teams because there's no point in rambling. But the only ones I would take out is I would take out the Patriots just because I was like they just got Gerard Mayo. They're not and they just got Drake May. So they got the quarterback and they got the young coach. But really, kind of after that, you're kind of really over here just being like, it's really at his choosing or whatever. Like, for instance, the Browns. Prime ain't going no Browns. Sheduer Sanders ain't going no Browns. That's a sentence. That's a death sentence. You needed one. Nobody's doing that. I was like, regardless of what happens to Watson, his money, his Achilles, no, that place is not. No, that's not what they doing. Let's go with the one that basically started the whole conversation, the Cowboys. Now, I was like, in a previous video, I sort of have talked about Deion Sanders doing it. So that part is not new, it's the combination. But I also said that I put out that I wouldn't have signed Dak Prescott nor CD Lamb. I gave a little bit more credence to signing CD Lamb than Dak Prescott. And I was like, I would have did a rebuild. This before we knew they were going to be trash and stuff like that. I said I would just go ahead and do a rebuild. Let Dak Prescott go somewhere else. And I was like, I would get Sheduer Sanders. I've also talked about Prime being there. Not at the same time, I was just in that situation. But they're like, oh, you have so much dead cap money if you go and get Dak Prescott. And that it'd be so horrible. Oh, my God. And I was like, if we haven't learned is that, one, some of these teams don't give a damn. Now, you can say that differently with Jerry, who is pinching pennies, that he might feel a certain type of way, and since he's had to force himself to sign a deal, that if him giving up on that Prescott might look bad to him in the press kind of thing. But we learned that they don't care. That if it's right, or I was like, there's a plan in place, they're willing to do it. A la Russell Wilson. With saying that, if you also hit on your quarterback, then it kind of really doesn't matter. Like, yes, you're going to be without cap, but at the same time, your shoulders at that point is going to be like, okay, I'm like, you figure it out. Just like how like the Saints have figured out how to keep kicking the can of contracts and stuff like that farther down the road. I was like, you're going to get rid of some people, obviously, that's just going to just be let go just because you were going to keep them anyway because of the money. So guess what? You're really sort of a young team. CeeDee Lamb's young. Michael Parsons young. You keep Diggs, he's young. But I was like, guess what? If you don't, Bland, who hadn't played this year, I was like basically a young person. So I was like, you have young people in place that you can start over. If you hit with the quarterback, it doesn't matter. I was like, you still got draft picks. And the Cowboys normally do a really good job. Their offensive line is all hella young. You're in a good place, to be honest, even at dead cap. You just have to figure out the margins or whatever, and you already sort of show that you're willing to do that. I don't understand this process. So I was like, I wouldn't put it out of realm that if the Cowboys keep on stinking, they'll be in the spot to get the quarterback. And if they're in the spot to get the quarterback, and I was like, look, compared to the rest of the teams, the Cowboys would be at the top of the list that I was like Deion would pick all the rest of them, to be honest. I really think, because I was like, we all say like Jerry and all that other stuff, I was like, this is also Coach Prime. And I was like, if anybody go to a place, it'd be him, and also to anybody that want to be at a place, it'd be him. Which brings me to the next one that I think is for the same thing of like, it's not the glamour that the Cowboys is, but being at a big market as it is the Giants or the Jets. But let's go with the Giants. I was like, I like Dayball. I was like, it sucked that he's going to lose his job because the general manager's going to lose his job pretty much. I was like, because to me, I was like, I think he's doing a really good job as a coach with the team that he has, but the general manager hasn't been that great. I was like, he's been okay. And I was like, Daniel Jones, they just tied the hip to that, and he's going to sink you. That everybody's going to lose, but I think Dabo will bounce back somewhere else. I was like, he should get a second chance. He done pretty good with that team. But Big Apple, I was like, big market. I was like, glamour name. I was like, I don't think that the owners of the Giants would necessarily want Deion because he's a big, like, I was like, personality. And then you've seen, like, they haven't really, all the people they've gotten into, like toned down, even from their quarterback. The reason Daniel Jones is because he's similar to Eli Manning, where he just super chill, even keel, cool, whatever. So in that same sense, but it is a big spot. But I was like, would they want Sheduer Sanders to take over the reign? They need a quarterback, but I was like, I don't know if he fits the mold of the Giants. But flip side, he does fit the mold of the Jets. Now, on one hand, they're going to end up having another GM, whatever. Everybody going to get canned here or whatever. Woody Johnson showed that he's willing to spend the money. He's willing to give you reins and stuff like that. I was like, depending on who the general manager is, but I was like, he would probably want somebody, and I was like, maybe there'd be some difference of, basically other reasons why he wouldn't want Deion. But I was like, but this is a business. I don't see why if he's going to get the spectacle that's Aaron Rodgers and the hoopla that comes with being the Jets, have the hoopla of it, of just being like, go ahead, get the coach, the quarterback. You get the quarterback, start everything over. You got Garrett Wilson. You can see what you do with Devontae Adams. Your team is still relatively young. Sauce Gardner going to get a contract here soon. Like, they're going to end up getting contracts, but they're all still relatively young. I was like, you got to rebuild some of the team or whatever. But Coach Prime being there, being a big star that he is, with someone in New York, but the Jets is a team that will bring that on more so than the Giants would in that whole thing. But I was like, you get to at least start out as something a lot more stable than what it was. Sort of what you was hoping with Saleh or whatever, and you just didn't get the quarterback right. But here, you're doing a whole total package. I was like, you're not over here reaching for the quarterback as well. You got good backs and stuff like that. So I was like, that can flip over really quick just because they have the talent. And if Rodgers doesn't come back, then I was like, if Sheduer Sanders come there, I was like, it could be on a C.J. Stroud situation. But I was like, but it could be better than what Caleb Williams is going through in Chicago because of the coaching and who you get to be there and all this other stuff. There's a couple other ones that I was like, I think that would be, I was like, intrigued. Also, I was like, well, along with the Pats, the Jaguars aren't going to be there just because they got their quarterback. They might change coaches, but they got their quarterback, at least signed up for a while. They're not going to move, whatever. And that GM, whatever, with some of the stuff he does. But the other two names that are intriguing is the Saints and the Raiders. Now, I will go to the Raiders first because I think they would absolutely do this. I feel like Mark Davis is wanting to make that big splashy hire. Who would that be? Deion would be a big flashy hire. It would bring back looks and noise back to the Raiders and stuff like that. And Antonio Pierce, I was like, he's sort of in the same situation of being an interim coach that is really on the hot seat just that quickly, even though offense bad and the team, they firing coaches and players getting, gone from the team and stuff like that. So I think that if they have a chance to get Prime, they would totally can Antonio Pierce for that. I was like, just because even though they're former players, I was like, even though you could say Antonio Pierce, give him another shot, I was like, it's Deion. They're going to do it. You're going to get the quarterback at the same time. They do need talent on the side of the ball and stuff like that. But Mark Davis giving Gruden a 10-year, he will give Deion Sanders that type of leeway. And Tom Brady owning a part of the team too, I think would also be in play because him and Sheduer Sanders got a little bit of a thing. I was like, greats like Deion and Tom Brady, they probably see things the same way. Things will end up clicking in a way where I was like, this will be the spot. I think, to be honest, I think this would be the spot. The Saints, they could, if they just would decide to, they could get out. I was like, if they get off their contract, they could. I was like, get rid of a little bit of the older veteran players. That way you don't, I was like, but the problem is that I know that the way that they are, they would keep some of the veteran older players. They'd be like, oh, we just need a young quarterback if they get rid of Carr Well, Cardone is supposed to be there for a couple years anyway. Or let Carr stick it out one more year so Sheduer Sanders sits, and you see how that goes. I was like, I would like this situation, but I think that I think they want to make the playoffs so badly that they would try to speed up the process, and to the detriment of Sheduer Sanders in a way where it's like, oh, we need to win, we need to start putting pieces around, we need to figure these out, and all the others to look at these veterans in, instead of understanding that, like, yeah, a couple veterans, like, you just don't want to be bare young people, but not the way that you're over here trying to scam for the playoffs. But all in all, I was like, the top teams is really Cowboys, Raiders, Jets. I think they would love the Cowboys. I think the Raiders have the best shot of getting them, but I think the Jets would not. Will put their bid in order to snatch them up. I was like, but I didn't. I was like, but I think it actually isn't as wild as what it is. I was like, crazy how, like, in the span of a year or whatever, we will have two type of historical type things, because guess what? This is going to be played up like Bronny and LeBron, but a lot differently because of that. I was like, yeah, it'd be like a little bit of nepotism, a little bit, but it's not, because the merits of both guys, to me, is different than the merit of the other two. But yeah, I was like, I actually be intrigued. I actually would like to see this actually happen, just because I think that this could actually work. And push come to shove, you at least know that if one of them fails, I was like, if Deion fails, he go right back to college. I was like, if Sheduer Sanders fails, I was like, Deion's also not going to be coaching anymore either if his son's not on that same team. So they're a package deal. So at least you know that by the end of your time, you'll know if it's expired or not. But anyway, what do you guys think? Would you enjoy this combination? What teams do you think could do it, if any, or not at all? Let me know what you think of any of this. But until then, all day, every day, no problem. Peace. We out.
Yeah, we party till the sun up. You ain't liking what we doing? Shut up. You ain't liking what we doing? Shut up.